It's going live now.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Rediffusion Summit 2021, we welcome you all to the fourth session of TRBS Speaker Series. In the second ever virtual TRBS, we are extremely honored to host Mr. Ambi Parameswaran. Mr. Ambi is a brand consultant, coach, and founder of brandbuilding.com. He's an award-winning bestseller author of 10 books. Mr. Ambi has spent 40 plus years in various corporates, including Boots Company, UDI, Yellow Pages, Rediffusion. He was also the former CEO of FCB Ulka, where he spent 25 years helping FCB become one of the India's top 5 ad agencies. Today, he will deliver an insightful talk on one of the most fundamental aspects of our professional journey, bouncing back from rejection. On that note, I hand it over to Mr. Ambi and look forward to this insightful session. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Ambi.
Thank you. Thank you, Gurpreet. Thank you for inviting me here. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me. Okay, good. So thank you. So good afternoon to all the viewers here. So the topic I'm going to be talking about is spring. Those engineers here will know that spring is a twisted piece of metal that can be pushed and pulled, but it always bounces back to its original shape. This is the name of the book I published in October last year, Bouncing Back from Rejection. And what I'm going to do is to base my talk on the book and add some extra as we go along. The question I want to ask all of you students here, probably first year, maybe second year, question I want to ask you is, how agile is your internal spring? How ready are you to bounce back if you are hit by a rejection? So the book really looks at something like 60 plus stories. About 6 are from my own life, and the others are from people I've spoken to from different walks of life. So, and I've also proposed a very simple method to face any rejection or any failure. Really 3 steps. First is be ready to face. You got to be positive. When you go to an interview, you got to be positive that you will get the job, right? And you got to have that courage of conviction. But at the same time, be ready to face rejection. Don't crumble. The second, once you're hit by rejection, be ready to process it. In the sense, understand what happened, what went wrong, what went right. And the third, and the most important step, is to say, look, what can you learn from that rejection? How can, Einstein said this, right? Only an idiot would expect different results by doing the same experiment again and again. So if you got rejected once, if you do the same thing, you'll get rejected again. So you need to figure out what to learn and how to change your game. So let's look at facing rejection. And I think I'll start with my own story here. This, all of us know of this placement season in IITs, and some of you may be IIT engineers, IIM, huge placement fever, right? Amazing amount of energy. And unfortunately, nowadays, I think some of you start worrying about placement even as you enter the campus. During my time, it was not so bad. But then there was a need for placement. So I was in IIT Madras, and final placement was happening in March 1977. Those days, it was not as if hundreds of companies come and line up. Nothing like that. There used to be one odd company coming every now and then. So I saw a notice saying that Hindustan Lever is coming for engineering trainee interview. I prepared my CV, which was a nicely typewritten one, and I gave it. And there were 50 students in chemical engineering. About 25 had convinced they were going abroad. So the balance applied for Hindustan Lever. And as they say, in IPL season, so I got bowled first ball, right? The interviewer asked me a very basic question, and I fumbled like an idiot. And I was said, thank you. My interview lasted, I think, 10 minutes. I went back to my room. I opened my chemical engineering unit operations book, and I discovered the question they had asked was literally from the 4th page of that book. Obviously, I was very, very unprepared. I got some other job, but I also was applying to IIMs. I didn't get into IIM Ahmedabad. Again, because I think they asked us some engineering question which I didn't answer, and I got into IIM Calcutta. And I started my journey in IIM Calcutta in 1977, and I was a very good student. The first year, IIM Ahmedabad students will identify with this. I was the so-called ice call student, right? You know what ice call, right? You still call it ice call, right? So I was an ice call student. I was a topper type, and I knew my subject. And cut to March 1978. Hindustan Lever was coming to IIM to take summer interns. I was very well prepared, and I thought this time I'll get it. I walked in. There were 40 students applying. So first round, second round, third round. Finally, there were 2 students who were shortlisted for the final interview for the internship. And there I was asked a tricky question, and I'll share a little video about that question later. And I gave a very, very rational answer, and I got rejected. So I got rejected twice by the same company, Hindustan Lever. And there is a nice twist to this tale at the end, which I'll tell you. At that time, I said, look, what am I doing? What do I want to do? I thought that I should rethink. And I said, I will now want to do summer internship. I could have probably tried for Cheeseborough Ponds, Citibank or whatever. But I said, no, I want to do my summer internship in Kolkata. And I picked a summer internship with an ad agency called Rediffusion, which was a very, very unknown agency then. That changed the direction of my career, right? And I call that the power of redirection. I enjoyed advertising. And then when it came to final placement, I got placed. They invited me to join them. I joined Rediffusion. And when Hindustan Lever came for final placement, apparently they had shortlisted me, and I didn't appear for the interview, and they had to be told that I've already been placed. So remember, you will get rejected, right? You can use that rejection to look at a new direction to go in. I could have tried for Hindustan Lever again. I could have tried for them again and again and again, but I decided to take the easy way out and say, no, I don't want to keep trying this. Let me find a new direction to go, and I followed. Now, some of you wondering, what was that question which Hindustan Lever people asked me? So I'll play this little video, and I'll tell you what the question was and how I muffed it.
Hello, Mr. Alford. Thank you so much for being here. I have one question, and I'm a huge fan of your film. So this just comes quite naturally. Can you please sell me this pen?
Brad, show him how it's done. Boom. Sell me that pen. Watch. Show this fucking pen. That's my boy right there. This one. Fucking selling. Would you do me a favor? Write your name down on that napkin for me. I don't have a pen. Exactly. Supplying the minimum.
No one's ever asked me that before. It's the first time. Let me tell you what that whole exercise really stands for, right? So the whole sell me this pen narrative is really, it's a test that you give to a salesman to see if they really understand what selling's all about. If you ask someone who's not a professional salesman, who doesn't have the right instincts, they'll start actually trying to sell you a pen. This pen is great. This pen writes upside down. It's the best value for its money. This pen will last forever. Buy this pen. Here's the thing. There's only one rational thing you could do. When someone says, sell me this pen, and that is to start asking them questions. So tell me, how long have you been in the market for a pen? What type of pens have you used in the past? Is it business or personal? Typically, when you buy a pen, what type of money do you spend on one? Do you buy expensive pen? The key to selling is to find out, step one, what are your clients' needs, values? What pain are they looking to resolve? What do they need? And you're looking to fill that need at the most basic level, right? Well, when you just go out and try to sell something to someone, what you're saying is, I don't give a shit about you. I'm just going to ram this down your throat, right? I want to know what you need. I want to know what you've done in the past. You ask questions. If I ask someone, hey, so how long have you been in the market for a pen? They say, oh, I'm not looking for a pen. Great, have a nice day. I don't sell people the things that you are looking for. I wouldn't try to sell you a pen if you're not looking to buy a pen. So that's, and if someone said to me, I say, wow, this person really knows how to sell. Because the biggest mistake that rookie salesmen make is they try to sell to everybody versus weeding out people who are not interested and only selling to those who are. So
here is a tip, right? This is the question I muffed. Sell me this watch, and I muffed it. So remember, this is a trick question which many HR people still ask. Be ready how to answer this question. Sell me this pen. if I had managed to do that, maybe I would have got a job and maybe my career would have been different, but no regrets. So rejection can actually give you an idea to go into a new direction, and maybe actually is a good thing, may give you a new way to go. So that's facing rejection.
Hello, Mr.
Right? The next question I want to ask is, there are these 4 books. These are absolutely fantastically best-selling books, right? What is common among them? It's difficult for you to guess, but the truth is these were all authors were rejected multiple times. Jeffrey Archer was rejected, not a penny more, not a penny less, a big seller. 16 publishers rejected them. J.K. Rowling, rejected by 12 publishers. Jack Cranfield was rejected by 144 publishers. Our own Amish were rejected by multiple publishers. So how do these authors continue to have the conviction? All authors have faced rejection slips, but they have the courage of conviction that they are doing something right, and they have someone with them to help them navigate this mess. So remember, rejection doesn't mean the end of the road. Rejection can lead you to a new direction if you have the conviction. Well, let me also go into, we looked at literature. Now let's get into music. And some of you here may know this person. This is a very, very famous Carnatic musician called Sanjay Subramaniam. And I'm a big fan, and me and my wife attend his concert many times in Chennai and of course in Mumbai. And so we had gone to this concert in 2017, and when we walked in, the hall was virtually empty, right? And so we were wondering what was going on. And so we talked to the organizers whom we knew, saying, look, how come this hall is empty? The organizer said, look, there's been a big mishap, and our promotion has not gone off well, etc., etc. So we said, look, this guy is the #1 Carnatic musician. I hope you've told him that the hall is almost empty, less than half full, because he can fill a hall. Shanmukananda Hall, 3,000, he can fill it. Here in this hall, it's a small hall, he's not filling it. So they said, no, we went up to him and told him. And his reply is amazing. What he said was that I've come all the way from Chennai to perform. Even if there are 5 members in the audience, I'll sing for them. And it was an outstanding concert to a very small audience, right? But then what happened was, in the audience was a very famous art critic called Shanta Gokhale. And she wrote a review of this concert the next Monday's Mumbai Mirror newspaper. And I'll read this from my book, what she wrote. Attending on Saturday, I heard young Sarodis Abhishek Borkar play with deep involvement, but to a sadly sparse audience. The number increase for Sanjay Subramaniam, who followed, but only to some extent. It was shocking that this part of Mumbai, the concert was held in St. Andrew's, Bandra, could not muster enough people to even half fill the hall for one of the leading stars of Carnatic music. I do not exaggerate when I say that San Subramaniam, recently awarded the prestigious Sangeeta Kalanidhi Award, was like one of those giant fireworks, packed with gunpowder, tubes of metal salt and oxides that burst into the sky and sent down shower. And she goes on, right? So here was a guy, fabulous musician. He comes to the hall, it's less than half full, but he sings with all his gusto. So remember, you may be doing a startup. You may be going into an interview. The startup, the VC might have said the 2 partners will be sitting in on the presentation. You walk into the meeting room, the 2 partners are not there, but the 2 executive assistants are there. What do? Do you walk out, or do you make a kick-ass presentation? Chances are those 2 assistants have the ear of the boss, and you do a great job, you still get your funding check. So don't underestimate the audience. Don't feel rejected if the audience is thin or you think is wrong. So that's the first one, facing rejection. Second is processing rejection. How do you process rejection? This story is from the life of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, probably India's most loved president. All of us know him as India, Bharat Ratna. He launched India's, space program, India's nuclear program, etc., etc., etc. but did he face success all the time? Let's watch his video.
1979, SLV-3 satellite launch vehicle. I was the project director, mission director. My mission is to put the satellite in the orbit. Thousands of people worked nearly 10 years. I reached the Sriharikota and it's in the launch pad. Countdown was going on. T-minus 4 minutes, T-minus 5 minutes, T-minus 1 minute, T-minus 40 seconds. Computer put a hold. Don't launch it. Computer says don't launch it. I am the mission director. I have to take decision. Everything is on. Behind me, there are 6 experts. They saw the computer database coming in and screen, and they see the pictures in the screen. They said there's a problem. The problem is there's a leakage in the system, in the control system. But immediately calculate, no problem. We have got sufficient fuel and oxygen for control system is control the rocket to the required altitude, and we can go ahead. Now, of course, my expert's view, but I took the decision. Problem is mine. Finally, I took a decision. I bypassed the computer. I launched the system. First stage worked is a 4-stage rocket, and second stage got mad. It went to the spin. Instead of putting the satellite in the orbit, it put in the Bay of Bengal. 1979, it was a failure. It was a failure. First time I experienced my failure. How do you manage the failure? Success I can manage. So at that time, a great man, a great leader, Professor Satish Dhawan. He comes to me, I am very tired working nearly for months. He wakes me up, come, let us go for a press conference. Press is meeting there, like this, number of people, world press, with photos, this and that, all the gadgets, they are there. I was really frightened. I will be the culprit because I'm the project director, mission director. What Satish Dhawan said, Chairman, Indian Space Research Organization, said, dear friends, we have failed today. This is the first time I have to do all the success, all the failure is, I want to support my technologists and scientists and staff so that next year they succeed. So he took the whole blame himself. And then media asked, you put Bay of Bengal so many crores, you are putting like that, a lot of criticism. He received the criticism. He assured them in a year we'll succeed with our team. It's a very good team. Next year, here only interesting happened. Next year, July 18th, 1980, when he succeeded, Professor Dhawan said, you go and conduct the press conference. Do you follow what this means? It means when the failure occurred, the leader took it up. When the success came, he used his team. That's the first.
So, all of you are going to start your career soon. You will realize that if you get a boss like Satish Dhawan, you need to hang on to them, because that is the boss who will help you silence your inner critic, help you fly high. And one day you guys will become bosses. And when you become bosses, try and become like Satish Dhawan, that the failure is yours, the success belongs to the team. Amazing story from a truly humbling experience from Dr. Kalam. Let's go to cricket, and cricket is in the news, right? And all of us love Rahul Dravid. Rahul Dravid is seen as one of the best cricketers India has produced. But you know that in 1998, Rahul Dravid was dropped from the one-day international team. A crushing experience, right? Geet Sethi, the world billiards champion many times over, an old friend, writes about this in his book. And he was preparing for his world championship, and he was in Bangalore in the Kantivira Stadium, going through his physicals in the morning, and he sees Rahul Dravid in the stadium. And Rahul Dravid had been dropped from the Indian cricket team just the previous week. Was Rahul Dravid running around, going to Delhi, meeting people, currying favors? No. Rahul Dravid was in the stadium early morning. And when Geet Sethi goes up to him and says, what are you up to? Rahul Dravid says, look, I need to improve my upper body muscle. So I'm here with my trainer. I'm going to work on my upper body muscle. And of course, as history book has it, Rahul Dravid went back into the one-day international team. And in the 1999 World Cup, Rahul Dravid was the highest scoring batsman among all batsmen in the. So the truth is that when you get dropped from a team, don't curse your boss, don't curse the team, learn to practice even more. Viren Resquina, the former hockey captain of the Indian hockey team, says, only in sport, there is no permanent black mark if you get rejected or if you lose. Remember, this is some lesson we have to take even in business. There is nothing wrong in being rejected. There is nothing wrong if you lose out and you have face failure. I'll come to a startup, a company called Saral Designs, which I support. Started by two young entrepreneurs, one from IIT Madras and one from IIT Bombay, Kartik Mehta and Sohani Mohan. They had the idea to make low-cost sanitary napkins, but high quality, and also machines which make those low-cost sanitary napkins. They made the prototype with some funding from friends and family, and they built the prototype, and they started going to VCs. 1 VC, 2 VC, 3 VC, 4 VC, 5 VC. 50 weeks go by, 100 VCs had rejected their proposal. 100 said no. Do this analysis. Some of you may go into startups, you will realize that do this spreadsheet, do that spreadsheet, increase price by 10%, reduce price by 5%. Let us see your discounted cash flow. Let us see cash flow. Let us see fund flow. All that happened. These poor kids were at wit's end. They got invited to they were winning some competition. So they got invited to a startup conference in California. So they went and Sohani made a presentation, and the presentation was over. A lady walked up to Sohani and said, Sohani, you're doing it all wrong. Sohani could have said, no, ma'am, I know what I'm doing. Sohani said, can I have a cup of coffee with you? I want to know what you mean. So this lady sat her down and said, look, Sohani, this is not an ordinary startup. You're what we call an impact startup. So you have to talk about that aspect of your business, which you're not talking at all. So Sohani rewrote the presentation, came back to India, and 100 VCs said no. She made 10 presentations to impact VCs and she got 4 checks, right? And then she also got, shortlisted in some big award, and she featured in the cover of the Forbes. And I'm happy to report that the company is doing well. They've got a good runway for the next 2 to 3 years. But it all started with 100 rejections, guys, 100 rejections. Okay, so that is Sohani's story. So let me come to a story from my own life in advertising. So in advertising, you need to go and pitch for business, right? So this was, I think, the year 1997. India was opening up, new car companies were coming, Hyundai was coming into the country. So we were invited by Hyundai, 5 agencies were invited. We flew down to Chennai and we made a presentation. And as the presentation was winding down, I realized that, we were not going to get the account. So on our flight back, I was telling my colleagues, yeah, this is, we don't know what to do. We are going and fumbling our way through. But my colleague said, no, I think our presentation is good, etc. I said, no, I think the presentation is lousy. So it led to some amount of soul searching. And we said, we don't understand enough about Indian car makers. We don't understand about Indian car buyers. We need to understand this. So the next 5 months, we spent time understanding the Indian car market and the Indian car buyers' changing mindset. As luck would have it, in January that time, Tata had unveiled their new car, the Mint, which later became the Indica. And we met the client, we talked to them, we got them involved in a case study competition. They invited us to pitch for their business. 15 agencies pitched for the business. And we won the account hands down. And we continued, we handled the Indica, the Indigo, Vista, Manza, etc., etc. The interesting twist in this tale is that the agency which won the Hyundai account could handle the account for about 8 years. After that, Hyundai brought their own agency. But FCB Ulka, which won Tata Motors then in 1998, continues to work with Tata Motors till today. I was there till 2016, and they continue to work with them till today. Now, obviously, this is because we took that rejection, And we did not blame the client. A very easy thing to do is that I am okay, he's not okay. But we said, no, no, no. He's okay, we are also okay, but we need to see what to do better, right? And we processed that rejection, and that helped us get over our initial defense mechanism, look at us, do soul searching, and then re-evaluate what we did. So let me play, since I worked in advertising so many years, let me play one more ad.
When I saw you standing there, about fell out my chair. And when you moved your mouth to speak, I felt the blood go to my feet.
Nice car.
Baby, I love you to want me the way that I want you, the way that it should be. Baby, I love you to want me the way that I want you, the way that it should be. Baby, you love me to want you the way that I want you.
Hello? Excuse me. Can you give me a lift?
Tata Indica, more dreams spoken.
So first we saw was facing rejection. Second we saw was processing rejection. Now we come to the third part. Probably the most important part is learning from rejection, right? And learning from rejection, the academics know it very well, right? All the academics are doing PhD, and I've done my PhD. So you need to submit articles to peer-reviewed journals, where the article is reviewed by someone without knowing your name, and they give you a review, and they always write a long review on this is why it is okay, or this is why it is not okay. So a lot of PhD scholars get very scared when they get these rejection memos from publications. But the smarter ones know that rejection actually holds a gem to something even bigger. I was talking to someone who was a professor in computer science, and he said, he had got about 20 papers published in the last 3 years. And out of that, 13 papers went through first shot. But the 6 papers which won him awards were the ones which were rejected once or twice. So remember, each rejection can help you become a little better, right? And that's something which academics know very, very well. And the other truth is, if you've not faced rejection, maybe you've not tried to fly high enough. Rejection is an indication that you're trying to stretch your limits. You're trying to do something which people think is not up to you. You can't do it, right? So the lesson is, remember, rejection is an indication that you're pushing your limit, that you're going beyond the boundaries. That doesn't matter if you get rejected. You're testing the limits. And now let me come to a story which I told you about Hindustan Lever, and this is a kind of a closure piece to that. In 1994, I was moved from Chennai. I went to Bombay to head one of the units of FCB Ulka in Mumbai, and one of the accounts I was told to handle was a brand called Santoor. The agency had got the account in 1989. I'd done some good work, but after 2 years, the brand sales had started becoming flat. I was kind of stuck in the middle. The agency had cracked an idea. Those in marketing will know that the consumer insight was that every woman wants to look young. So it is basically a very powerful consumer insight. And they'd come with a creative idea of mistaken identity, that there is a girl who gets mistaken for someone younger, and a little kid comes running and says, "Mommy." And then you say, "Oh, wow, she's a mom, but she looks so young," right? Agency thought the idea was very good. The script was very good. And they'd written the script, which they thought was very good. Client was not sure. And I was a new guy sitting in the middle. I had to navigate the client's problems and the agency's problem. The agency, of course, thought that mistaken identity is a great idea. Mummy is a great idea. The client is not seeing the right way. Client said, "No, we are not sure whether the model is right. We are not sure whether mistaken identity has lived its life. Maybe we should drop this mummy. Maybe we should drop the whole thing." They had done some research, done some new scripts. They were all not doing well. The scripts which we had also had not done very well in research. So it became finally a judgmental call. So I had to find a way around this. I realized that the client had a feeling that the younger looking skin still has potential, right? So I had to reframe the problem, and we managed to write two different scripts. One I'll show now, and another one which was set in a music showroom. And finally, I got the client to agree to do both the films. So we did two different films. The client was kind enough to approve both of them, and they said, "Look, we'll do both, but we are not sure your idea will work." Right? But then we did both the films. The client then tested both the films, and it turned out that the idea which the agency had on day one was actually a good idea. It worked. So let me play that ad and tell you what happened.
कितनी खूबसूरत है, पहले कभी नहीं देखा इसे। Excuse me, कौन से कॉलेज में हो? कॉलेज? और मैं? मामी। इसकी त्वचा से तो उम्र का पता ही नहीं चलता। चंदन और हल्दी के गुण समाये संतूर, त्वचा कुछ और निखारे संतूर 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 संतूर।
I told you there is a connection between this story and the first story I told you about Hindustan Lever. The truth is, when I started working on Santoor, it was a small brand, and Lux from Hindustan Unilever was probably 10 times the size of Santoor, 10 times the size of Santoor. But 2 years ago, Lux became a smaller brand than Santoor. Santoor overtook Lux to become the second largest soap brand in the country, and I hope that one day they will overtake Lifebuoy as well. So at that time, if you remember, Wipro was not a big company. The IT business had not started, right, in a big way. The IT services had not yet started. So Santoor was built by a very, very dedicated team with very small budget, and it went on to become a very, very successful brand, in fact, overtaking Lux from Unilever, to the extent that, Wipro has come out with a book called The Story of Wipro, 75 years. And I'm humbled that, they've included me as one of the cast of characters who played a role in the success of Wipro. So in a sense, Hindustan Lever didn't recruit me. I joined advertising, got a chance to work on Santoor, got a chance to help, Wipro become what it is. So maybe, as they say, stars all align in some way to show you new direction. So I'm grateful to what has happened. So with that, let me just say that remember to develop your internal strength. Don't worry about rejection. There are phenomenal opportunities facing all of you. Be ready to take risks. Be ready to fail. Be ready to see the positive side of every rejection. Build your rejection processing system. Find people as mentors like Suhani did to advise you, and bring in energy into everything you do. And remember, attitude triumphs talent. And let me play this short video from Harsha Bogle, which is part of his book as well.
And yet you find that excellence is not about talent alone. In fact, a major part of excellence has nothing to do with talent. And in course of time, once you go beyond a certain level, ability or talent is the most useless virtue to possess. It's what you do with that talent that matters. And that's why Mukesh used a word that I love, attitude. Beyond the point, it is attitude that counts for far more than talent. Because talent breeds an ego. And talent never solves problems beyond a point. And I was fascinated by something that Sandy Gordon said when we were doing a program together. Because I had seen a lot of young cricketers, extremely talented, who the moment they faced a roadblock did not know what to do. Because they had never had to struggle to succeed. They always used their talent to succeed. And Vinod Kamble is an example of that. The moment Courtney Walsh bounced him in Bombay, he was 22 years old. Was he? Yeah, he was 22 years old then. In 1994, he was 22 years old. Didn't know what to do. Did not play a test match after that. His last test match was when he was 22 years old. Just did not know how to play the bouncing ball because talent had solved everything for him before. In the Australian Army, when they are, and this is something that doesn't come from sport, but it's something a sports scientist told me, that when they're building an elite core team, they look at your career record, your track record. And if you've never failed, they don't pick you. They don't pick you because they say, if this man experiences failure, will he know what to do? They pick people who failed and bounced back. And that is where your attitude comes through, that your work ethic and your attitude counts from far more than talent. I mean, Tendulkar is a prime example. He played 55 games as a 14-year-old without a break. 55 days. He'd practice for 2 hours, play a game, practice 2 hours, fall asleep on the dining table. And do that 55 days in a row. That's attitude. It isn't Tendulkar's talent that's produced 70 hundreds. It's his work ethic, it's his attitude, and more than anything else, when he reaches the top, it's his passion to perform. And that counts for far more. The attitude and the passion counts for far more than ability. Ability opens the first door. It might open the second door. It's not going to open the last door.
So look at the classic difference between, Rahul Dravid, who gets dropped from the Indian one-day international team, and 3 days later, he's in the stadium practicing his chest muscles. And Vinod Kamble, who gets out for a bouncer and then gives up, right? So learn to become like Dravid and you will succeed right through your life. So become a super spring, learn to bounce back after every challenge, and remember the face, process, learn formula, right? And it will help you face any challenge as you go forward. And remember what Nelson Mandela said, do not judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I've fallen down and got back up again. With that, let me just do a little bit of tooting of my own trumpet. And I think Gurpreet did tell you about my many books. Spring is available for those of you who have a Kindle account. It's available on your Kindle Unlimited, free of cost. So you can download it, read it, and post a review. I'll be grateful if you do that. And of course, I've got 10 books out there, and of course, 2 mini books, Negotiation Magic and Brand Brewing the Magic Potion. Both are available on Kindle Unlimited, free of cost. You can read them. Those of you who are interested in negotiation, may not be marketing majors, but you will find it interesting. Okay, so and of course, Harish Bhatt of Tata Sons, last year when he was asked to name 6 books to be read during the pandemic, he included my book, Nawabs Nudes Noodles, is one of the 6 books to be read. So with that, I think you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Twitter on Ambi MGP. So with that, I think I will stop, and I will now look forward to having some questions. So thank you. Thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you so much for the very insightful presentation, sir. The videos are also very interesting. We'll start by some questions. So we have taken from the participants earlier. The first one is, how do people build the right support systems apart from their parents and their family members in their struggle after rejection so that they can vent out any of their negative feelings?
I think the answer is there in the question itself. I think, do you have a support system with your family? And that's normally your support system is your family. It's your parents, maybe your brother. And then later when you get married, when you have a spouse, it is your spouse who becomes your. In addition, remember, as you start your career, you will get to meet people. And you got to start kind of building your own support system. It could be a professor, right? In B school, you're in touch with that professor. That professor can be your mentor, right? Or if you're in a job, it could be your boss, or it may not be your boss, but your boss's colleague who can be your mentor. So build your, what I call this rejection processing system. It's really finding some people who you can go to when you are hit by a rejection. Not all of us are mature. And I've narrated a nice little story. I don't want to mention his name because he's very big. He was he was hired by this very, very reputed multinational company. He was head of sales for another multinational. He was hired as a in sales by this multinational company, and he was for 1 year they didn't assign him any job. They kept moving him from city to city, and after 1 year they posted him in one of their smallest regions as regional manager. He was there for about 4 months. Then he called me, and we had he treats me like a mentor. So he called me and said, Ambi, this place is sick, it stinks here. I've been here 1 year, they didn't give me any job. Now I'm here 4 months, a very small region, nothing much is happening, but I'm doing my best. I think I should bail. So I told him, look, this company's name on your CV is going to be fantastic, right? But don't leave in 1 year, then it will not be valued at all. Spend at least 2 years. After that, we'll talk. And what I hear is the current CEO of your company is in bad shape. So the current CEO is going to get sacked any day soon. So just hang in there, wait for another year, and then we'll talk. As luck would have it, within 6 months, the CEO got sacked. The new CEO came. He met my friend, and he realized this guy is very good. He was moved to their biggest region, from the smallest region to the biggest region. A year later, he was made the head of the national sales. And then 3 years later, he became the CEO of the company, right? Imagine the plight, he was almost ready to resign. And then 6 years later, he was CEO of the company, right? So he was sensible enough. He must have talked to me. He must have talked to 3 other people, right? To get advice, saying, what should I do? So be ready to talk to people when you are hit by a rejection, right? Thank you.
Thank you for that answer, sir. We'll move to the second question. So you've talked about these 3 steps in order to face your rejection. So first one is to face, and then process, and then learn. So this question is regarding the second step of that process. How does one filter out any useful advice from irrelevant ones? So we talked about mentors and taking advices from people. So how do we filter out any useful stuff from there?
I think you should be ready to listen to all advice, right? So, problem is when someone gives you advice, you get your defense mechanism up, right? So suppose I say that, look, that Hyundai presentation, our analysis is not good enough. No, we did good analysis. In that Hyundai presentation, our creative is not good enough. No, our creative is very good. Then you lost it, right? So the important thing is listen. Listen to all the advice. Then you figure out, right? If 3 people are telling you that you don't know enough about the subject, you cannot keep saying, no, I know enough about the subject. Sorry, you don't know enough about the subject. Then you go back and start reading up on the subject, right? So what you call in data, triangulate karo. Talk to 2 people. If you getting the same feedback, there is some mistake. And remember, in this whole rejection thing, what you got to realize is it's not about you. You got to be a little dispassionate about the negative report. You've not been rejected. Your CV has been rejected. You've not been rejected. Your manuscript has been rejected. You've not been rejected. Your PPT has been rejected. So try and distance yourself. When you start distancing it, then you realize, yaar, wo PPT pe gadbad tha. I am a good guy, right? Aditya, you'll say, I'm a good guy, I'm a well-read guy, but ye PPT mein gadbad tha. I should not have made such a shoddy PPT, and it was not good enough. So remember it's not about you. Distance yourself. Learn to distance yourself. The moment you distance yourself, then you're willing to listen to advice. Right? Till then, you get your defense up. Nay, I put in so much effort. No, I did that great research. No, I did that great analysis. That's not going to help you. Right?
That's a great answer, sir. So moving on to the next question. So you talked about these 2 examples from cricket with Kamble and Dravid. So just going along the same lines, how do people manage, the intrinsic motivation or conviction to keep continuing after their failure? So it might have been that Kamble must have lost some part of that motivation in his career. So how would you advise that?
Again, I think you have to have a system surrounding you, right? Which will tell you things which you don't want to hear. The problem is when you face some level of success, you get surrounded by people who say yes to everything you say. अरे क्या तुम्हारा बैटिंग तो बहुत अच्छा है, तुम्हारा स्ट्रोक प्ले बहुत अच्छा है, वो कोटनी वॉल्श क्या है, वो गधा है, then you're stuck, right? Then you think, I am right, he's wrong. And when you get into that I am right, he's wrong, you're going to lose the plot. So you got to be ready to surround yourself with people who will tell you the bad news, who will tell you things that, sorry, your diction is not good. Sorry, your writing skills are not good. Sorry, your presentation skills are not good. Sorry, your analysis is not good. Learn to surround people who can give you this negative feedback, and learn to take the negative feedback in your chin. If you don't do that, you'll end up the way Kambli. And when Kambli and Sunil and Sachin Tendulkar burst into the Indian scene, a lot of experts thought Kambli was a better player. He was a more beautiful player. His stroke play was majestic. What happened? Tendulkar had the attitude. Rahul Dravid had the attitude, right? Great players have that attitude. There's an old story about how, at the peak of his career, Tiger Woods decided to stop playing for a year because he wanted to improve his game. He said, my game is not good. If I continue like this, I'm going to mess up my shoulder and I will never be able to play again. So he went back to the drawing board and got himself fixed, right? Not by operation, but changing his game, changing his stance, changing his stroke, right? Be ready to do that, right? If you don't do that, you're going to go the Kambli way, which is very sad. This happens in every field, like even in movies, they surround themselves with these yes men and they have this problem of, आपका acting तो बहुत बढ़िया है, लेकिन audience बकवास है, That's never the case. Audience is always right.
Right, sir. We'll move to the next question, sir. This is slightly apart from this particular topic. So you have been a coach yourself for some time now. Could you tell us a little bit more about your experience as a mentor?
So I've been a mentor to startups and I've been a coach to senior executives in different companies, right? Where there are two differences. One, a coach and a mentor are two different animals. Mentor is someone who actually helps you find the way, may even show you the way, right? So I may even say, look, your positioning is not okay. Have you looked at this positioning? Have you looked at that positioning? Right? Maybe your articulation is not okay, right? Whereas a coach holds a mirror to you. A coach actually helps you discover the answer yourself. Because only if you discover the answer yourself, you will have the courage of conviction to do it. So as a coach, you work with people, you spend time analyzing them, you do 360-degree, which is, talk to different people in the company, get the feedback, share it with the coachee, and help the coachee develop what are going to be his coaching goals. What is it that he needs to improve? Which the coachee does, right? And the coach helps him or helps her to do that. And then after that, the coach makes sure that the coachee works on that and achieves the goal. So that's how a coach works with a coachee. Mentor-mentee relationship is slightly different. Mentor is always seen as someone who's an expert, a subject matter expert, someone who's more worldly wise, who you can go to when you say, look, I'm stuck, right? 100 VCs have rejected my proposal. What am I doing wrong? Can you tell me? And the mentor will tell you, maybe this is wrong, maybe this is wrong, maybe this is wrong. The mentor will never tell you what to do, but give you options, and then you figure out what will work for you better. So coach, mentor are slightly different, and like sports, right? Sports, a mentor cannot come and play the game for you. right? He can only tell you your stroke play is wrong or you're not playing the bouncer well.
Right, sir. So, sir, we have one question from our YouTube live as well. This question is from Dibakar. So, you have talked about religion and its role in consumer decisions in your earlier works. How does religion or faith play a role when it comes to facing rejection, if any?
It's a very, very interesting question. There is original research done by Emil Durkheim on religiosity and suicide. That research has been debunked later, but let me explain what the research was. Durkheim studied the society in Germany, and he studied suicides. And he found that people who are religious don't commit suicide. Right? So somewhere religious faith helps them find new meaning, helps them avoid something like a suicide. But this is old research, goes back to I think 1880s or something like that. But my PhD was on religion and consumer behavior. I think religion, I'm not saying the rabid-rousing religion, but the spiritual aspects of religion can help you face any challenge, any rejection you face in your life, right? Because that's spirituality. Spirituality is all about that, right? Which is what Bhagavad Gita says, right? There is, of course, I put that in my book as well as the last para of my book is from Bhagavad Gita, which I think all of you will know, right? Which is Karmanev Adhikaryasya Ma Phaleshu Kadachana Ma Karma Phala Heturbhur Ma Tejo Sayo, which means do the work, don't expect the results. Right? Results will come. Right? So being spiritual is a great way to face rejection. But again, there is this old story. This guy goes and prays and he writes the SSC exam and he fails. And he goes and tells God, "Arey God, I came and prayed, I failed again." So God says, "Okay, try again." So he goes and tries. Again he fails. "Arey God, what is this? You're not helping me." He goes third time and he again fails. He says, "God, what is this?" God says, "Yaar, at least kam se kam tumhara roll number to likho paper pe." So you have to at least make that effort. No, you can't leave it on God. But being spiritual helps us at all times, undoubtedly. Thank you for that wonderful question.
That's a great answer for that as well, sir. Another question.
So there is another interesting story which Premji narrates in one of his talks. He narrated this wonderful story. There are these footsteps on the sand, and this guy is asking God, there are these footsteps. Whose footsteps are these? He goes through his full life time span. So he says, "Those are your footsteps. Those are my footsteps. I've always been with you, my child." And he goes through the timeline, and then he says, in the middle, during 3 years, there are only one footstep. The other footstep is missing. So this guy gets very upset. Said, "God, those were the times I was having the biggest trouble. Where were you? Where were you? I was having all the trouble at that time." God says, "Child, those are my footsteps. I was carrying you for those 5 years." Get it? So that's an emotional story. I thought, I trivialized the whole thing. My house is very close to Siddhivinayak, वो हमको मार देगा, इसलिए मैंने एक अच्छा story बोल दिया. ठीक है? Now you ask your question.
No, that's a very interesting story, sir. Thanks for sharing that with us again. Another question. This is from the live chat again, sir. How does one process continuous or a series of failures, one after the other?
I told you the story of Suhani. 100 VCs reject, 100% rejection. So if you're getting rejected again and again and again, you're doing something wrong. You got to stop, right? You got to hold, pull back. Suhani was unlucky. She could have found someone even earlier, but she went through 100 presentations. Because, you know, when you're doing something, you get caught up. You know, BC says, Agle hafte aa jao, do this analysis and come. You go back. Agle hafte aa jao, do that analysis, go back. You're not saying, yaar, what is this guy asking? Does he even know his job? Right? Maybe I'm doing it all wrong. So when you're rejected 2 or 3 times, you got to stop and say, look, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? Right? And then if you can't find the answer, talk to a friend, talk to your spouse, talk to your girlfriend, talk to your boyfriend, talk to your father. Find out, take their advice. Because if you've been rejected 3-4 times, then maybe you're doing something wrong. Remember, I told you the Hindustan Lever story. I got rejected twice and I said, yeah, chodo, not worth it. Right? I could have gone back to the Hindustan Lever interview, you know, for the final interview, but I said, chodo. You know, I've got this good PPO. Gurpreet jaisa humko bhi acha PPO mil gaya. Chodo yaar. I'll make, you know, life is, you know, the other thing I want to tell you guys is, you guys are too obsessed with this placement business. You know, day one company, dream company, all this nonsense. And what happens is you guys join a company, within 1 year, you want to leave that company. Then why did you know, Mata Pod kyun kiya? So take it easy, right? You can get rejected, there's nothing wrong, right? And if you get rejected 3 times, go back to the pavilion, like what Rahul Dravid did, hire a coach and go and work on your upper body muscles. Okay, so that's the simple advice.
Thank you, sir. I hope that has answered our audience's question. I'm pretty sure it has. We just have a time for, I guess, one more last question. This is, so sir, you have previously talked about how advertising follows societal trends and reflects the current environment in your previous works. So how would you say that the COVID has affected the advertisement industry, given that a lot of people have changed their lifestyles and the whole culture, the whole environment has significantly altered?
I think it was Lenin who said this, you know, in history, nothing happens for decades, then everything happens in a few weeks. Right? So COVID has been a dramatic change in adoption of very many. For example, this Zoom itself, right? 3 years ago, none of you would have even heard of Zoom. I remember I sit on the board of a company called Cube Cinema Technologies, and we have, you know, directors attending the board meetings from Tokyo and from Hong Kong. And 6 years ago, when one of the founders of Cube, Sendil, said, Ambi, you don't need to come to Chennai, yaar. Attend the meeting on Zoom. So I said, yaar, ye Zoom kya hai? 6 years ago, huh? So he said, no, Zoom is a great thing, yaar. It is much better than Cisco. You know, you come on Zoom. Okabe-san also is coming on Zoom. So we will do the meeting on Zoom. It should not take more than a couple of hours. I said, okay, I did the meeting on Zoom. I found it great. 6 years ago, but no one was using it. But, you know, last year, between March and May, all of us learned Zoom. Right? We learned how to use Zoom. We learned how to use chat box, how to share screen, how to do whiteboard. Everything happened. Right? So dramatic changes have happened. And now offices are going to open up. Advertising will change. Advertising agencies have all been operating from home. All the ads you see, except for the film ads, which are shot under COVID conditions, they're all being created by boys and girls working out of their home. Well, now they're going to come back to office. Some of the learnings will continue. Some of the offices will restructure. Digital transformation is a reality. Advertising also will change because digitization has increased. Digital media's growth has increased. So we will do more stuff on digital. We'll do more stuff on what we call data analytics and algorithms and all that stuff. But fundamentally, remember, marketing, communication, and advertising is about understanding consumers and connecting with consumers. That will not change. Finding consumer insights, you know, whether it was an insight like what we found for Tata Indica, it is a more car per car, which is Indian consumer wants more from everything. And therefore more car per car became the clarion call, or the Santoor, where the younger looking skin was a promise. These are eternal. I mean, that can continue for eternal. Your medium of communication may change. It may not be a 30-second ad. It could be a 3-minute video. It could be a blog post. It could be something else. But as long as your insight is powerful, it will continue. And advertising, as you know, advertising started as space sellers. We were representatives of newspapers and magazines. We used to make commission. Right? Then advertising said, no, radio has come. How do you get people to listen to radio? That's when they created the concept of sponsored program. That's why they're called daily soaps. P&G sponsored the first set of radio dramas, right? We learned how to do radio. Then we learned how to do TV. Agencies then learned how to do direct, digital. Now they learn how to do this, navigate this whole thing about AI and ML and algorithm and all these complex things.
Right. Thank you again for that answer, sir. I guess this is where we'll stop with the Q&As as well. So on the behalf of the entire TRBS team, sir, I would like to thank you for taking out the time to enlighten us with your experiences and knowledge. As students who aspire to be business leaders, the learning from this session would help us in tackling the uncertainties that we would face in our careers. And obviously your personal advice is obviously going to help all of the students who are listening right now. We would also like to take this opportunity to thank our title sponsor, State Bank of India. TRBS 2021 is powered by GRT Jewelers. We would also like to thank Perpetti Van Mel, our business partner, and Either View, our knowledge partner. Thank you everyone for joining us.